Hey, what's up, Facebook? What's up, fellas? Welcome to the Sunday sermon with Muah, Mike, your mentor. You know what? Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there who might be watching this, because I know there's some ladies who like to tune in for what we're doing here. If you're watching the replay, thank you for taking the chance, or say the opportunity, for giving me the chance to just be with you and to share with you. I was just thinking about this, and I guess the commitment that goes into this every day to show up and to do this, and how it's not always easy. Sometimes, to be honest with you, I wouldn't say I don't want to do it, but excuse me. Um, at times I feel like there's other stuff I got to get done, but I know that it's worth it. I know that it makes a difference. And bottom line is I committed to it, so. My word is my bond, and I'm going to follow through with that. So, if you're new to this page, quick backstory. My name is Mike King, 38 years old. I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. I went through a lot of tough times as a kid, as a teenager, and then through my young adult years with a lot of different things that I've talked about on this page thus far. You can check any of the past videos to look into those things. And I started this page because I was thinking, how does somebody who is born into that situation and who goes through all that stuff, how do they make something out of their life, right? Like, how do they have their own family when they came from a broken family? How do they become a good husband when they didn't have that role model? How do they become a man when they didn't have that role model? How do they become a good father when they didn't have that good of a role model? And two things were revealed to me. One, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be alive. I wouldn't have the life that I have, and I'm very grateful for that. And two, if it wasn't for the mentors that I had in my life, mentors that came from reading books, right, and learning about the stories of people who had gone before me and had struggled in some way and overcome that struggle to achieve something great. Whether that didn't have to be something that I thought was great, but to just overcome hardship and to see what lies on the other side of that and what they were able to gain out of life. And that was very encouraging to me and very influential in my life. And then I had men who saw something in me, who spoke life into me, who spoke vision into me, and they came alongside of me, and they did life with me. They took me out to lunch. They hung out with me after games. They took time to talk to me and to ask me what was important and to get me to think, like, right, like, what would I do when I grow up, to think about the future and to begin to plan and think about the type of person that I wanted to be. And it helped me recognize that I had a choice on what I wanted to do, and there was two roads in front of me. And at various times in my life, I was at that crossroad where I could go down the road and be just like my father, a womanizer, a person who didn't follow through with their word, who was very selfish, or I could go down the path less traveled, in the one that sticks it out through hard times, does what he says he's going to do, honors other people, and that can be a very hard choice. So this channel is an attempt for me to take all that wisdom that's been sown into me over all these years from all these different mentors, and from these different life experiences that I've lived in this short 38 years. Crazy. And sow those seeds into other people, because wisdom is wisdom. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how young you are, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter your sexual orientation. None of that stuff matters to wisdom. Wisdom is wisdom. So you can either seek it, you can either get it, and you can put it in your mind and in your heart, or you can ignore it and struggle. and make big mistakes like I made along the way. So I hope, I always hope that you guys get something out of this. I pray that God speaks to your heart, to your mind, as you're watching this, and whatever He's put on my heart to share, that it makes a difference in your life. So we'll jump into it tonight with the Sunday sermon. I want to take this time and just share a story with you. You know, we've talked in the past about my brother committing suicide. I was a sophomore in college, and it was probably one of the hardest times in my life to go through that. And my default MO is to just shut down my feelings and what I think, and to take care of those around me, and to almost numb out the pain and the feelings until they bubble up to the top, and then it's just this emotional outburst of, I don't know, it could be anger, it could be sadness, could be grief, all these different things that you deal with, and that I went through during that time. So after that, wasn't easy going back to college and to the routine of life. And I want to share this story with you tonight, and it's pretty, I don't know what you'll think about it. You know, I don't know what I thought about it at the time, but looking back on it, I don't really believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a purpose, and it's God uses that to shape you and to form you and to get you to a different place along your journey. So tonight, I'm going to talk to you about this story that I call the refiner's fire. And how do I even start with this story? So I was a junior, right? So we was about a year removed from my brother committing suicide. So it was the summer between my junior and senior year of college, and me and a couple teammates from school, we signed up to play in this 3-on-3 basketball tournament in Cadillac, Michigan. Now, it had been some time since my brother had passed away. It was getting easier to deal with that. I had an instance where I shared with you guys about the dream that I had about my brother being at the end of my bed and me waking up and seeing him there, and thinking that was not a dream, and going to hug him, and then realizing that I was in a dream, and then waking up. Other than that, there wasn't anything too emotional that I can remember, other than maybe just walking by his bedroom every time I went to my room, and just wishing that I would see him there. And that was a very strong emotion at first, but as the days went by, that emotion, it got easier to deal with. I guess it wasn't as intense as the words that I'm looking for. So here we are. We're gonna play in this basketball tournament up in Cadillac, Michigan. It's a nice, beautiful, warm, sunny day, and we've got the next game. So we're standing on the side of the court, or I am. My other teammates were kind of standing there and just stretching and just waiting for this game to get started. And I'm pretty sure I turned to my left, and there's this guy standing there. And now this guy looks like the character from the Mad comic books, but just a little bit older than this, right? So he had this shaggy hair. He had these big, huge ears. I mean, he was just this goofy looking dude. But for whatever reason, he wanted to talk to me, and he just struck up a conversation with me. And I've always been one to talk to people. I like to get to know people, go below the surface. So I started talking with him. And I don't even know how we got on this topic, but I was a religion major in college, so all types of spiritual talks, religious talks. I'm always fascinated by all that stuff, what people believe and why they believe. So he started talking to me about the Bible, and he was talking to me about things, and his ability to recall verses out of the Bible was crazy, like one after another, after another, after another, like they just rolled off his tongue. And he was telling me, about how, in the Old Testament, every book speaks about Jesus Christ, and then all the stuff that's in the Old Testament is then fulfilled in the New Testament. And he's drawing all these analogies and stuff. But what really stuck out to me was he, and I don't know how he just wove this in, but he talked to me about the refiner's fire, and I'll never forget this. And he asked me if I knew what that was, and I said no, I didn't. And then he proceeded to ask me if I knew how they made gold, and I said I had a rough idea that they melted it down. But then he went into this story about how in the old days they would get this crucible, right, which was like this thick ceramic, almost like jar, and they would put all the gold pieces in this jar, in this crucible, and then they would get this fire, and they would heat this fire up super hot, and I don't remember how many degrees it was, but I mean obviously hot enough to melt gold. And then on the end of this crucible would be this long pole, right, and it would have to be long, like 5, 7 feet, maybe 10 feet long, because you couldn't get close to the fire because it was so hot. Obviously you'd get burned, so you'd got to be able to stick that crucible in the end of the fire. So you put the crucible in the end of the fire, you leave it in there for I don't know how long, and then all the impurities rise to the top, right, of this melted gold. And then the person takes the crucible out of the fire, and they scrape the impurities off the top of the crucible, and then they stick it back in. Now, to make pure gold, he told me, you have to do that at least 5 times. 5 times you have to stick that in, melt it down, scrape the impurities off the top and put it back in, and then you'll have pure gold. And then he went on to tell me that our lives were exactly the same way, and that God would use the refiner's fire in each of our lives to help purify us throughout our journey here on life. And he said that each person would go through 5 life-changing events that would shape the course of their life. And he started asking me about if I had been through anything significant lately. And so I started to tell him a little bit about my brother and everything. And, we had started talking, and we never even I never said who I was. He never said who he was. And then, when I told him about my brother, he asked me what my brother's name was, and I told him it was Anthony. And then he kind of laughed and chuckled, and he said, well, my name's Anthony. Nice to meet you. And I said, my name is Mike. Nice to meet you as well. And then he began to ask me more and more questions about my brother. Well, this conversation, which in reality probably only took 10, maybe 15 minutes, seemed like it was much longer than that. And then my friends, that game that we were waiting to be done finished, and we were going to start playing. So we had to go out there and start warming up and stuff. And my teammates were like, hey, come on, King. They're like, come on, we got to get started or whatever. So I politely thanked the gentleman for his time, and I walked on the court. And I took 2 steps onto the court, and my buddy comes up to me and he's like, hey, who's that guy you were talking to? What'd he want? And I started to tell him, and I turned around, and now this is like maybe 5 seconds have gone, and we're up here at this basketball tournament, and it's not like there's thousands of people. It's not like there's there's probably 100 people maybe in the local area, but they're not all packed together, and I cannot see this guy anywhere when I turn around. He's gone, like vanished into thin air. There was not enough time for him to run away. There was not enough time for him to hide anywhere. I mean, it was literally 1-2 step on the court. My friend said, who was that guy? I go to turn around to point him out, and he's gone. Now, the Bible says you will entertain angels unaware. I don't know if this guy was an angel. if there was ever a time in my life where maybe I thought that I possibly could have been talking to one, then that's what I would put all my money on, if I was going to put a bet down. But I to this day I've never forgotten those words that he's spoken to me about the refiner's fire. And I think back about through all the things that I've went through in my life, and how each one, as hard as they were, has strengthened me, and in some way purified me for whatever it was that was next in my life, that I had to come through. So I'm not sure the real purpose that I'm telling you this tonight. I think it's that I want to give you hope, right? Hope that we all go through hard things. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And those hard things that we're going to go through in life, even though they may seem unfair, even though they may seem like they're too much at the time, there's a purpose behind those things, and I don't know what that purpose is. But what I do know is that if we make a choice to learn from those things and to look objectively at those situations, we will be better people because of that, and we will be able to do far better and greater things in our life to come, as we move forward, and especially as we look back on those situations with clear vision, right, with 20/20 vision. And I just want to encourage you again, like, don't give up. Like, no matter what you're going through, no matter where you find yourself. I mean, I've wanted to give up dozens of times. Dozens of times I've felt like I've been at my wit's end and not wanting to deal with any more hurt, not wanting to deal with any more disappointment, not wanting to deal with any more rejection. And each time there's this voice inside of me, right? You can do it. You can get through this. There's better days ahead. Come on. Just keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep fighting. Keep going. Take the high road. Don't, someone does something nasty to you, don't retaliate. Just move on, right? Don't let that affect you. And it wages war on your mind and on your soul and sometimes on your body. But we got to keep moving forward. We gotta submit ourselves to that refiner's fire process, and it's pretty incredible what can come out of that. Now, I'll end it with this for tonight. Keep this shorter than normal. It's pretty crazy some of the things that you can do with pure gold. So I want to challenge you to Google this and to look up, what would you Google? Look up, how far can you stretch pure gold? And it will blow your mind that if you take pure gold that's the size of a quarter, how far you can stretch that out. I know what you're thinking, like in your mind you're thinking, alright, maybe you can stretch it this far, alright, maybe you can stretch it a couple of, get that in the screen, maybe a feet or two. It's going to blow your mind how far that can be stretched. And that's just one of the properties, or one of the examples of what can happen with pure gold. And now I think of how that relates to our lives, right? And as we're being refined and we're made pure, what we're capable of. The other day, someone told me I had big shoulders. Told me not to worry. I got big shoulders, because they needed some help from me, and they gave me a task to do, and they could tell I was beginning to get a little bit frustrated with the task, and like a good mentor, this person, they came alongside of me and they said, don't get frustrated. One, I know you can figure this out, and two, you've got big shoulders, so you can handle this. And I wouldn't have those big shoulders if it wasn't for all the things that I've been through. You know, other people at times have commented to me, "Oh, you're so patient, right? You're so laid back. You don't get upset by these things." And that's just it's just a side effect. I don't know. I can't think tonight. It's because of all the stuff that I've been through, right? You learn going through a lot of difficult stuff. One, you learn to not take yourself so serious, right? And two, you learn to deal with a tremendous amount of pressure in a very little amount of time. You know, things that might cripple somebody emotionally when they come on. They don't. They just kind of roll off your back, for a lack of better words. And I don't know what all this is leading up to. You know, I don't know why I do know a little bit why I went through all those things, but I know there's something else there. There's something else around the corner, because I haven't gone through all 5 things, or at least I think I haven't gone through all 5 things in my life in terms of the refiner's fire, if that held to be true or not. Now, I don't want to speak anything over anybody. I don't want to put anything on anybody. I'm just thinking back on my own life and the major events that I've been through, and these words that this guy, whatever he was, spoke over me and shared with me. So I don't know if that's of any help to you tonight. I don't know what that says to you. Just doing what God told me to do and then sharing it with you guys. And I hope that you receive something out of it. So, you know, I want to say one last thing. Today's Mother's Day, and there was a time where I was very upset with my mom, where I blamed her for my dad leaving, and I thought it was all her fault if she only did this, if she only did that, and I was very immature, and I needed to come to an age where I could look back and see that it wasn't my mom's fault at all. Unfortunately, it was my dad's fault and the decisions that he made. And I had to go to my mom and I had to apologize to her, and ask her for forgiveness. And I don't know where you're at today with your mom if you're watching this. Maybe you're a little estranged from your mom. Maybe there's some friction there. Maybe there's not a relationship at all. Maybe your mom is left you and, you know, passed on, and there's this wound that you have in your heart. I want to suggest to you that it's never too late to do something about that, whether your mom's alive or not. And the way that I would suggest you go about fixing that is the wrong word. The way that I suggest you go about starting to heal that wound is that you write your mom a letter. Maybe you mail it, maybe you don't. But just the process of writing the letter, it's so freeing. It's so freeing. I don't know why I'm telling you that. I just feel like there's some guys that they've been through some stuff with their moms like me, and it's time to lay that stuff down. It's time to forgive, right, and move on. So I know you have the courage inside of you. Take the steps necessary to do something about it. As always, if there's something you need from me, you know how to get a hold of me. I appreciate you guys watching tonight. I love you, and we'll see you tomorrow for My Life Monday. Have a good night. Bye.